All right, place your bets. Is it gonna start or not? My friend gave me this county line log splitter, and I doubt that it split more than 20 pieces of wood. Now, he said that he shut off the gas every time he was done with it and let the motor run until it ran out of gas. That's a great practice to keep your engines, your small engines running well, is to not leave gas in the carburetor. But I've had this thing for 3 or 4 years. He had it sitting outside a couple years since he had used it. So I went ahead and bought a carburetor from Amazon because I thought that this would definitely need a carburetor. So I drug it out of the corner of the shop today and fully expecting to put a carburetor on it. But I took the cap off the gas tank and looked in there, and it's clean. There's no rust in there. The controls on the carburetor aren't froze up. So we're gonna try and just put gas in here and see if it fires up. I'm using non-eth gasoline, no ethanol, because these small engines just don't appreciate ethanol. And you don't burn them or use them that much, so the gas tends to sit in them and go stale, and then that water that the ethanol attracts just ruins your gas tank and ruins your carburetor. I'm not gonna put too much more in here because if it doesn't start, then I'm just gonna have to drain it anyway when I take the carburetor off. Got the switch on. I've already checked the oil. We're good there. It says that's fuel on. This is choke right there. So we'll put her about half throttle. Let's see if she'll crank. I'm like nervous and excited all at the same time because I thought I was gonna have to put hours of work into this thing. And if it starts, I mean, that's just gonna be so cool. Well, it sputtered. See if we can keep it going. All right, I gotta keep choking it. Doesn't want to run unless it's choked. Well, it might be burning some bad fuel that was left in the carb, or maybe there's some gumming around the choke. We're going backwards here. Try it with no choke. And it won't even fire with no choke. It'll run, but it won't run off choke. But it's not putting out a lot of black smoke that tells me that it's running too rich. So what I'm gonna do is shoot some carburetor cleaner down here. Sometimes that'll work, and you can get an old engine running good just with carburetor cleaner. But sometimes they're just not gonna run properly, so you just go ahead and change the carb. It's easy enough to do. Now it's not doing anything. I liked it better when it was running. I'm just gonna go ahead and swap out the carb. And that's what these small motors will do. They'll give you that ray of hope that, oh man, everything's fine and it's gonna run fine, and then you just fight with it. And every time you need it, it won't run, and it won't run right, and you put it under load, and the carburetor won't govern itself right because there's something stuck in the passages of it. And a lot of people that are handy out there can rebuild carburetors. It's not worth it to me. I don't know what that carburetor costs. We'll put a link down below, but it's cheap. It might be 12 bucks or something. Most carburetors are just gonna be, on these small engines, are just gonna be 2 nuts that you take off. And there'll usually be some, like 1 piece of linkage or something. So let's look at my new carb, see if it matches up. Okay, it's the same. Here's the on and off, shut off to the gas tank. So that's just kind of the same, except this one down here is a little bit longer, which is fine. You can still get to it. Got the 2 holes here. Should have a gasket. There's a gasket right there where it mates up to the air filter assembly. Choke spring in your throttle right there. Shouldn't take me very long. Sometimes these hoses will get brittle. It actually comes with a new hose. Might just put the new hose on it. The hose ain't long enough, so we won't be putting a new hose on it. The kit does come with a choke lever. Make sure I have a good visual. So we'll put this spring into this little hole right here. Linkage. So the linkage in the spring, and now the only thing holding this on is the fuel line. I don't really want to mess with this fuel line too much. Here's the fuel shut off. So if I take this fuel line off, it's actually going to leak fuel until I get it on the new carb. So I'll try to do that quickly. Some needle nose and take this little clamp off. I'm gonna let a little bit of fuel drain, and then I'm gonna just pop it right back on the stem of the new carburetor. Yeah, that fuel is clean. That's all that fuel I just put in. Stick the carburetor back on, the new carburetor. Put the fuel line on. And hook the throttle up here. Should go in exactly like the old one came out. That stem in there. The governor spring, not the choke spring, but the governor spring in there. Okay, that's installed. I think we're gonna use the choke lever that came with it. Even though it's not leaking, we'll go ahead and put this clamp back in place. So that's how easy it is to replace a carburetor on these engines, and most of them have the same carburetor. All right, double check that everything's good here. Everything's hooked up, choke works, gas line off. I got a vacuum line here. I gotta make sure that it gets hooked back up. Coming out of the exhaust, it goes there. Put that line over there. There we go, we got choke and fuel shut off. Put on 2 nuts. They're metric 10 millimeter. All right, this goes on top here, foam on the outside, and then a paper filter on the inside, and it's not dirty at all. Carburetor is preset at the factory. We know it'll fire up because it's already started once. All right, place your bets. Is it gonna start or not? Here we go. Got new carburetor on. Let's turn the fuel on. The choke is on. Got it choked. We'll give it medium speed. Doing the same exact thing, ain't it? That's not what I thought. I thought it was gonna start right up. That's usually what it does when I put a new carb on something. I got it running with a full choke. Before we go find some wood to split, I just wanted to say that I fooled with this a little bit off camera. And even though it's a new carburetor, I feel like the main jet in it might not have been fully clean, I guess is the best word. So I took the float off. I've got clean gas coming into it. I sprayed some carburetor cleaner in there, and I got it to where it'll run at about 3/4 of a choke. It's running really good, and I'm just gonna have to run it with a little bit of choke on it. I use seafoam, which helps not only treat your gasoline, but also reduce carbon buildup in your cylinder. So I run this in just about everything. You can put this in diesel as well. So I go through a lot of this. And then I use Stay-Bil because I just never know how long that gas will be in there. So any small engine that I have, I'm gonna put this into the fuel, the non-ethanol fuel. But let's go find some wood. I think I have some out by our compost pile. So let's go around and just see how this thing actually splits wood, because that's its purpose. So as a child, I used to actually split a lot of firewood. My dad had a homemade wood splitter that ran off the PTO of the tractor. It had its own pump and everything, made out of a railroad tie, and all the hydraulics and everything were like taken off of an old backhoe or something. And we would split wood. I would sell some, and we heated our big drafty farmhouse. And we would keep the wood, his workshop heated with wood. We had a general store that my mom owned and ran, and we would keep that heated with wood. And then we had a greenhouse where we would grow vegetables in the winter to sell, and we would keep that heated with wood. So I couldn't tell you how many cords of wood that I've cut and I've split. That's what I would do after school. So this piece has a lot of knots. This is a 25-ton log splitter. No problem at all. Yeah, it just went through that effortlessly. Well, we got it running. We proved that it can split wood, and for about $12 or so, we saved this thing from being discarded, possibly even end up in the landfill, because my buddy was done with it, and when he's done with stuff, it's just gone. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please click that like button, and until next time, remember, life's short, tractor hard.